Okay, good morning. Hope you're well. Good morning, Apex. Good morning, Narneth, for being here so early in your day. Or late, if you did stay up. Hey, Ian, how you doing? Good morning. Okay, so I'm gonna get this underway in a second. Wow, I appreciate that, Narneth. And I'm not bad. I'm not bad. It is Friday, finally. So today's stream is going to be shorter because I have a call straight at 9. Um, which I cannot avoid. Um, Not good working practice to uh, not attend your boss's calls. So I'm going to jump straight into this. I'm going to preface this entire thing with throughout this journey of doing this, and the intention of going through this exercise was to try and understand what it can actually produce without being an expert at these things. I am not anti using AI. I'm not even anti agentic AI, right? I believe that it is a useful tool that will help speed us up if used properly. I think if we try and use it the way that some people expect, it will slow us down. But I think it is a useful tool that if we learn how to use it properly, it is. So One Lion said this a long time ago to me. It's just another tool, and I dismissed it. Well, not wholly dismissed it, but I essentially dismissed that concept because I was so against this. I think we have to learn how to use it just the same way we have to learn how to use autocomplete, just the same way we had to learn how to use all the tools around the sides of the screen. As we get to them, we become better at using them to become more effective. If we don't know how to use them, unit testing. If you don't know how to write unit tests, it's slow, right? It's the same sort of thing. So I think that if you are getting into software development, it is a great tool to learn how to use effectively. I think it can help your learning and acceleration. But that being said, you have to be a developer. It does not let you off the hook. You have to be a developer. It does not solve all the problems for you. You still have to understand how to analyze problems. You still have to understand the nuances of what it can produce. And you're not going to do that if you're not a developer. So whether you're beginning or you're an experienced developer, you have to be a developer still. It's still exactly software engineering, just way more fun. Yeah. So here's what I produced. So my intention was to create something that had kind of a real world use case. And it was the idea was it was a consultancy app where, where you could see a list of consultants and you could hire them, right? And then the long-term vision of that was to be able to manage that interaction going forward, like progress updates and such. So this is what it produced. So this document, everything in this is produced by AI. I have not written a line of code. I have not written a line of documentation. I have not created a project. Nothing has been done by me other than telling it what to do. Right, and this is Claude Code hooked in through WSL, which is not the smoothest of experiences. There was some challenges in getting that up. This is not about how to set that up. I'm not going into that. I'm just demonstrating what I have and sharing my opinions as we go. So I just asked it to, before the stream, to create a mermaid diagram. So it was all done by you with the mirror during the grunt work. Yeah, but it was a key piece for me to do this. I was not a developer. I tried to be as non-technical as I could. And when it went off the rails a little bit, I was like, well, I've heard about this technology, or I've heard about this technology. And I'll share some of the good and bad about what it did along the way in doing that, right? So it created an auth so I can log into the system. Dota, 23 months. Thank you very much. I'm glad I am one of the ones that survived your sub purge at this point. So we have security, we have auth, we have a front end. I deliberately chose React so that I had no understanding of what it was producing. So I had no way of knowing if it went bad. Couldn't be as bad as Table. It can be, and it does get there. We created an API gateway, and we created put it as backend microservices, a user management service, an order management service, and a notification service, right? And it labels these as services, which is interesting. Yes, I went full vibe coding. There is not a single line of code written by me. And that is one of the terms I will not use frequently. So we have this user management service, this order management service, and this notification service. And from very early on, I said there should be no communication directly between any services because it tried to put HTTP communication in there early on. I was trying to guide it as like, I've been told this is the right technology to use, that I should be using a service bus. So it put in mass transit and RabbitMQ. So I was trying not to be technical. What I found was I kept getting pulled back into at least having to understand what it was doing. And without that understanding, it wouldn't have even got here, right? It just would have been bad. This sort of stuff, right? It was happily going to link these things quite tightly, coupling them without any sort of challenge. So I did have to guide it, right? So it's, it's highlighting message queues, RabbitMQ. So clean architecture, domain, application, infrastructure presentation. If you see in Liquid Sky, this isn't going to look too different. That was not by design. I did not tell it to do that necessarily. Nothing I gave it said follow clean architecture that I remember. What I wanted to do is I did record some of me doing this. I might try and bring up those videos and see if I can find pertinent moments from that. I recorded several hours of footage. I was hoping I could try and pull these things together. Oh yeah, the entire project is called Prove Myself Wrong. Right? The entire intention of this was to disprove my own fears and challenges about using AI for coding. No, I installed Claude Code at this point. Now, Claude does have some context of my preferences. So clean architecture, yes, true. Claude has preferences stored, and I do say clean architecture in there. So yeah, it probably did use that. Yeah, good point. But it didn't. I told it to pull in these, some of these things. And again, I was like, I've talked to an expert and they say this is the way to do it. And that's the only way I prompted it. I didn't say you should use this and structure it this way. I said, I've talked to an expert and they say this. And that's how I kind of got it back on the rails sometimes. Yeah. And I've gone through this with Apex a little bit. I've demonstrated some of this to him. So he has a little bit more context than you guys. But yeah. So it created separate databases for my things. It, service independence. This is one of the early things I laid down. I said there's no way direct HTTP calls. That is a preference for me. It's the whole independent deployability thing. If you have HTTP calls, then you have to worry about, like retries and checks on the HTTP. Role-based security. I didn't say RBAC at all. I didn't. It once I described the platform, it kind of put that in. Yeah. No, I haven't put much of Liquid Sky has not been anywhere near Claude overall. So other than saying I like clean architecture in my Claude preferences, that's it. Real-time communication uses Signaler, communication flows, right? So we get it. Again, I chose React 19 so that I had no idea what I was looking at there. I actually had something that I said no major issues with. So let's see if it runs, right? And I'll show you what it does. I had to restart my entire machine because I was getting, yeah, there we go. I said, please create an architecture diagram and then save it to a file, please. So it saved it. It saved the mermaid diagram for me. So if we go cd front end and then npm start, it can't possibly be. I've restarted the machine. I haven't started anything else. Oh, what is this? So I went through this exercise yesterday and it was like, yeah, port 3000 is blocked. I'm like, there's nothing on port 3000. Sorry. Let's start. Nothing is running on port 3000. Ugh. Let's see if it'll survive running it without. Yeah, I've run multiple tools and nothing is running on port 3000, which is frustrating as all heck. Okay, so here's what we have, right? We have, sorry, that's very bright, Consult Hub, find the perfect consultant for your project. So the idea is that you can start your project and you can sign up, right? You can browse, failed to load consultants, there we go again. Come on, move. I can log in. Let me get, see if this works. Has it survived a restart? Toasts are nice, yeah. It toasts quite a lot in a second. Jane.smith at consultants.com. I always get this wrong. It's either consultancy or consultants. Nope, login failed. I think the database has disappeared. Prove myself wrong. User management, users. Jane.smith at consulting.com. Yeah. Why are you not working? Jane.smith. That is the password. That's the seed password. Pretty sure. And again, just to demonstrate the my lack of knowledge, I don't actually know where to go and look in here for where it put some of this initializer stuff. Jane dots. Oh no, those are the clients. These are the consultants. Consultant 123. Okay, so it is the right password, so it's just not working. It's just not working. Awesome. That's a good start. Okay, so here we go. Well, again, remember, I'm not a developer, right? I'm someone trying to build an application. So I'm going to do this the exact same way I did last time, right? So we're going to go in here. I can't log in as jane.smith at consulting.com. Keeps saying login failed. So going through this exercise, I have been able to run out my tokens for the time period many times. I have been delayed for, like, I've had to hold off for 2 or 3 hours because, you know, yeah. Update user management. Why would you? Let me check the database seeding and login configuration to troubleshoot. I can see the user seeding looks correct. Let me check if the database exists as a seeded data. Yeah, sure, you can do. Yeah. Oh, cannot execute the file. So here's one problem I have found with having Claude in WSL. It's like it's not always able to access stuff. When I'm AI coding hard, I usually do it after midnight and I have to call it done when the East Coast wakes up because change it's stupid fast. Yeah. So I have deliberately gone through several versions of this where I've basically been I haven't been necessarily deliberately difficult with the tool, but I'm trying to understand like, oh, I don't know what I'm looking at, right? You're giving me so much stuff. Um so um right. So I'll ask it to give me the instructions for doing what it needs me to do because I know that um it's it's struggling. But there's no point doing that, right? There's no point being deliberately like obstructive the entire time and saying it's a problem, right? I can still again, you still have to understand what it's doing, and that's the one thing I found difficult. I couldn't go at this completely dumb, right? I had to. The technology had to. I had to have an understanding of the technology at some point, and that's why I'm saying you still need to be a developer. But start chirping it, just gibberishing me after be, man, she just not online. So we're gonna do the to user management presentation, and we're gonna run that command. We know the migrations are there. We can see the database, right? So if that doesn't work, try dropping and recreating. Yeah, but we know it's there because we can query it. Use .NET Build. Interesting. What build works? Have I updated libraries? And that's the problem. Let's just carry on and follow what it told me to do. Git seems important. So, if you are not careful, and I learned this lesson, you can tell it to auto commit, right? Right. So again, Ian, you're proving the problem, right? I don't understand that, right? As someone who's been told to run this, I don't understand that, right? And it doesn't know that difference, right? So let's have a look. You are probably right. It probably is because it was yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. If you give it so what I said is at one point, when we've achieved a good chunk of functionality, you should prompt me to commit. And then later on, I bundled through and said, yes, you can do it yourself. And it was like at one point it's like it had made a change and it wrote on the screen, this is looking really good, let's commit, and it prompted, the please accept the commit. Ah, yeah. So here we go. It's accepted that there's changes. So we're just going to run the command blindly. Like, I don't care if this all, like, collapses on itself. It did probably tell me to do... No, it told me to go into the same directory that I'm in and run that command. Oops. Yeah. And that's again what I think it should be. So again, I'm trying to be genuine here. I'm trying to show the way I did it, right? And not pretend that I've so okay, there you go. So it says go to infrastructure and then run that. Like, I'm okay with it telling me to run the commands. That's perfectly fine. Um, there you go. And then we run that one. So there we go. So now let's run it. So let's build. I'm also developing a habit of submitting other people's code for review if they're in the circle of people who just post code stuff I see. And then run. So again, I was not trying to be obstructive with this tool. I was trying to learn what it would do so that if someone's saying, hey, it does this really great, it's amazing at doing this, I could say, well, hold on, like, how far have you taken that? So I will say that throughout doing this, because I went at it in the way I did, what I found is it would make unrestrained changes to code that I hadn't even asked it to touch, right? I wasn't even focused on. It decided something else was a bug. I had multiple issues. Actually, let me bring up my actual notes for this because I think it's worth. Yeah. So here again, my criteria as I started this. I wanted to pretend I knew very little about technology. This was easier said than done, and I had to resist interfering on multiple occasions and completely failed on my way. I wanted to build an application that was significant in domain and technology usage, so I chose a consultancy that was backed by an event-driven system, right? That was a deliberate choice, right? The biggest issue, so bored. Yeah, that's another comment I made. I wanted to make sure there was at least some technology that would challenge me, so I asked it to generate things like React and stuff so that I had no idea what it was doing. And observations. As a non-technical user, you can muddle through a lot of stuff and produce something that is going to work. You can't avoid regressions. It will regress if you do not learn how to constrain it, right? It will go back over code you thought was good and change it. And it happened multiple times, right? Oh, that's not good. DBO tables users. There you go. Okay. Um, this is, let's have a look. There's tools in Rider to do some of this stuff. What am I looking for? I'm looking for analysis. I have some tools somewhere. Statistic. There you go. I mean, I use ChatGPT and I copy stuff back and forth, but like unit tests, and I'm unwilling to let it rewrite stuff that is not currently targeted for refactoring. Right. So I chose to. That's not really what I want, is it? Statistic. What? C# files. Yeah, C# files, including generated code. 10,000. Yeah. I've so as a non-technical user, you're going to be blind to the cost of everything it does. In multiple times, it included libraries that had licenses and did not warn me that they had licenses, right? It included, well, it tried to include Mediator, at one point as a no. It tried to include fluent assertions, which is now licensed. I said no. It included mock, which I rejected and told it was paid, but it didn't even check that for me. It actually included the license cost in the Claude instruction file originally, which was interesting. It's very easy to confuse and very dependent upon the capability of the user to know what to provide it. So again, good instructions will give you a better experience. Learning how to build effective instructions is a talent that you need to learn. And whether you're beginning in this or you are an experienced dev, you still need to learn how to use the instruction file to get the best result. If you keep providing it with the very basics of the problem, it's very, like, again, I kept deliberately, and hi Rambling Geek, what I did, and some of this was deliberate to as a non-technical user, you're not going to know what a stack trace is, but you are going to know what an error message looks like, right? You're going to know this is telling me this is bad. So I would feed it, like here, when I was feeding that error before, you know, it gave me a stat trace, I fed it this piece, right? I quickly learned how much it needed from that. So sometimes I would have to feed it the entire stat trace to give it context. In this case, I knew that it would have an idea based on this because I got that experience. So you've got to learn how to provide it the information that will give you the best result, right? If you don't, I termed it as it can lead to a death spiral. So I got into an issue where it didn't update some data. So I told it errored. It goes, what's the error message? I gave it the single line of the error message. It said, okay, I've made some changes, check it now. I said, it still fails. I gave it the error message. It made another change. It still failed. I gave it, and I was like, what do you need? It's like, give me everything. It, in bold, it says, give me everything. So I gave it the entire stack trace. And what it did is it made a bunch of changes and swapped out entity framework for SQL. And then said, yep, you're good. Right? Now, I only knew it swapped it out for SQL because I was looking at the code anyway. But if I was not understanding what it was doing and just letting it go, it was fine. But it got into that death spiral, and eventually, and it even put it in as, this is an emergency fix. So that got me in a bit of a mess, right? This is agent. This is all written with Claude. This is not written in any way, shape, or form by me. I've not written a line of code. I've not changed the code or edited the code in any single way. It is all Claude. You'll spend a lot of time working on code that you've previously worked on as it goes back and breaks things to introduce new features. Again, if it feels that another piece of code has changed the meaning of another piece of code, it will actually go back and change that other code. So again, learning how to use the instructions to say what it should and shouldn't do, how to constrain it properly, right, is going to be vital. It doesn't necessarily validate what was there before, so regressions are easily introduced. When I showed this Apex, I could log in. I could do everything I want to show, right? And I haven't actually changed very much since then. So, no, normally, yes, I turn that on, but it's all done through Claude, right? Nothing in this is me. The quality of the instructions, the usage of strict policies, standards, patterns, practices, etc., are going to be vital to create a maintainable code base, but there are no guarantees. SignalR still doesn't work in here, by the way. It never got SignalR working. And I spent 3 hours trying to get SignalR to do what it needed to do. It's not just, so Rambling Geek, it's not even providing it with context. This has the entire application as context. This is all Claude, right? I'm not looking at this as a programmer. I started this project as someone who has no idea to understand what sort of code it could produce when left unconstrained, right? Yeah. So right now, Jane.Smith at, again, I'll never remember this, consulting.com, and the password is consultant123. I think I put an extra T in there. Yeah. Login failed. Now, I'm going to go in here deliberately to see. I think it's because it didn't start up on port 3000. So yeah, so again, like Rambling Geek, you've learned that giving it certain files and saying this is your context is fine. But as someone who's, you see these people, you know, I think it's port 3000, by the way. It's not starting on the right port, and I think that's causing issues in the auth service from a cause perspective. I am someone who has tried to do this deliberately to understand what you need to do. So as you learn how to use these tools, understanding how to constrain it. Again, it has changed code that I have not asked it to change. If it thinks something is a bug, it will change it, right? So you have to be able to understand those things, and it's a challenge. Use GPT-4 in it wide upstream. It's good to keep in mind that different models all behave the same. Right, but Claude is also lauded as one of the best development AIs. The Claude model is apparently one of the best for development. And did you put SignalR into a distributed system? Right, so your usage of it is different, right? So I have multiple things that can produce notifications. So it's the deliberate choice of building a distributed architecture. So I think this is actually caused by this. So when I start up the front end, it tells me that port 3000 is taken. Oh, it integrated SignalR. It's just not working the way it's intended to. I'm not saying it did have SignalR in there. SignalR's connected and fine. It's just not working. So here we go. Port 3001. So it's giving me Gemini models for explanations about stuff or planning stuff. So again, how would you, and this is a genuine question because again, I'm sharing this because I want to show what I did, and hopefully I can get to the application working, right? But I'd be interested in knowing your experiences. How would you identify this problem without using your knowledge of coding? How would you do that, right? Ask yourself how you do that. What's your opinion on new devs using this, or even if you use it regularly, would your skills atrophy? New devs absolutely can use this. OneLine and I have actually had a conversation about this over the use of this tooling. I think new devs can definitely use this. I think that we should definitely encourage the knowledge of becoming a developer as well. You can't replace your understanding of software development. At this phase where these tools lie, you still have to understand what software development is. So learning about building those skill sets still matters. If you rely too much on this tooling, and you're just not learning how to code, it will show through eventually. But I don't think it will cause our skills to atrophy. I think it will actually amplify our skills in terms of we can learn new methods, new terminology. We can grow in a way that we've been doing for years with Google and Stack Overflow, etc. There's no difference when we're using it in that manner. It will help us understand more. I find doing engineering but ignoring my skills to be counterproductive. My skills are what make me special. Ignoring them is to flounder. I've seen skill atrophy when using this. I think it's helped me learn new techniques. Yeah, I agree, Apex. Is an art engineering following one's own construction and past your existing knowledge set. Not knowing enough is everyday occurrence, but the real essence is having the intention to understand the underlying system and solve the problem. This whole vibe coding thing seemed too odd for me. I've seen people use it, but never thought about using it. So that's why I did this, because I wanted to understand, you know, what can it really do to be the most, how do I put it? Informative it could be, right? So, by the way, there is no, I've done that multiple times. Use a different port. See all node processes. Nope. Hi Harish, how you doing? It's force multiplier for me. It allows me to push further, faster. I've noticed a tendency to not try to read error messages much anymore, but I've also been a huge read the error message dummy person. Intensely read error messages, because a lot of the time the answer to the bug is in the message. So not really losing the ability to get problem from error message. If anything, it's reinforcing what a strong signal the error message is, and then it can point directly to the issue if you would just read it. Use MPX kill, pretty good. Stoney, hello, welcome in. So this is not yeah, I have learned through the error message stuff, right? If I fed it more information, it would, yeah, the error messages into the, so I actually got into the habit of creating a text file and feeding it the entire stat trace in there and saying, hey, could you go and analyze that and tell me what you find, right? So again, as I got further through this process, the more my technical skill and understanding had to come into play. And that's what I'm saying. This is not a replacement for you as a developer. And one of my goals again was, is this going to replace me as a developer? Is this going to take away my job? I think in organizations that somehow are conned by people kind of throwing stuff together and getting something to work, then maybe. So maybe there are some organizations out there that will they'll reduce their workforce of developers, thinking that the AI tools can evolve quick enough. But I don't think they can. I don't think it's a replacement for skill and talent. This does not build a very cohesive application. It does very much feel like I'm trying to figure out this because I really want to show it, and I have had this working. This is annoying. And you're very welcome, Stoney. I'm so happy to cause you stress. It's quite the reward. Yeah. So keep sure, but I'm also monitoring hit rate. The score is high enough in general. I feel like I'm on the winning side. Yeah. So let's see. So we have some node processes running. I like we just get a list of node processes. That's hilarious. Node. That's interesting. Where's node 20? That just multiplied my node processes by a significant amount. Well, that's probably those three in there. I really think trying to go faster is the wrong approach in development, just because the easiest way to break the speed barrier is to cheat and produce stuff that doesn't work. But So this doesn't, I mean, apart from this demo not going the way I wanted it to do, in general, this doesn't, even left to its own devices, it still made an application that does work, right? I think, again, using the tools properly is what we need to learn how to do. In organizations that are using these tools, you need to guide that. We need, I watched a demo the other day by someone in an organization that they didn't know that you could extend the instruction set, right? Beyond your prompt, but they were using the tool and showing it off. You've got to learn that there's a way to constrain it. You set your rules in place, you build that up, and as a team, it becomes no different than your coding standards and things like that, but it can help you. For me, the way I want to use it going forward, I want to be able to say, structure out this stuff, wire up mass transit, Kafka, etc. Do the things that are just rinse and repeat between applications. It will help my consistency. It will speed me up in the ways that I am accepting of it speeding up. A morning trap, by the way. Like anything, all this stuff's usefulness is dependent on the situation, language model, interface to it, etc. It's just a form of automation, and software dev has been nothing but automation since the beginning. For reference on where I'm at with it, I spent 6 months in a round and round with AI building my SOA scaffolding tool. I'm currently working on a 15 Docker container system I started last Sunday. That it's scaffolded that I'm doing a full IAM or yes. And that's impressive to watch. I highly recommend checking out now on a stream. He's building that in Ruby, but it is very pertinent to everything we do. And it's quite fascinating to watch. So highly recommend checking out now on the stream. We'll go through the low code fad that was supposed to replace devs. Engineering is never at working state. That's called break time. Well, when I code, I'm in a working state the majority of the time unless I've done something wrong. But AI. Hi Zons, how you doing? There are tests that prevent any regressions. But those tests are only as good as you made them, right? Like nothing avoids regressions. We are human. We make errors. And again, I'm not trying to say this is annoying me. I think this is the problem. But I don't know how to ask it the question. Again, I don't know how to ask the question of, yeah. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. For anyone just joining, this is not my normal content. This is me highlighting something I've been working on the last week or two, trying to learn what AI tools mean for us for real. After this, I can say with certainty, I will use Claude Code. I will use more of this tooling in my day-to-day. I will not use it to write large chunks of code for me. I still fear the quantity and the quality it generates. One of the big problems I found is it will create a lot of code very fast, and you have no control of that. So you spend a lot more of that time is reviewing what is produced. So the more you ask it to do, the more you stretch out and ask, the more likely you are going to get something that you don't want it to do. So you have to learn again how to rein it in. And if you look at my Claude MD file, which is its instruction file, right? I laid out the architecture. I said, you can't use this, right? These were very clear things. No shared databases, no synchronous dependencies, approved communication patterns, why it matters to it, right? Yeah. So you have to guide that path, right, Trent? So learning this is what you need to focus on. Understanding that you can't just make it solve all your problems for you. It will help you understand the problems. It will help you build stuff, and it will speed you up by helping assist your knowledge. And again, it's quicker than Googling, right? Because it can use real language to understand by asking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I got informed by, again, another demo. I've had a lot of these recently, that the agent and the ask don't necessarily use the same model. Yes. But again, like getting started, business logic and rules, and then you're able to add memories to it to tell it, what to follow. So again, I've been trying to figure this out, right? Don't use fluent assertions. It's got a license. I don't know where it got don't use and substitute from, because I would have preferred it over shouldly. But it introduced shouldly. Oh, another thing here. So initially I had Again, everything I've got to do is talk about stuff. So actually, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can quickly scrub one of these videos to show you what it actually should look like. Because I promise, I'm glad I demoed it to you, Apex. Otherwise I would have been screwed on this one. Let's make sure that I don't show anything that I shouldn't show. Yeah. So, this is kind of me going through, trying to get it to do notifications because again, I'd spent hours of, yeah. Well, I'm not using Copilot here. I'm using Claude. So yeah. This is the equivalent of Copilot instruction. So again, it's like notifications aren't working. Here's what to check. Do all these things, right? Let me check if these things are working. And it gone through this multiple times. And I'll be honest, I got frustrated at certain times and I started calling it a toaster. And it acknowledged this and said, yes, I'm the worst kind of toaster. I'm the toaster that burns the toast. And I asked it if I should ask the microwave, because maybe the microwave had a better idea at one point. And it actually wove that narrative into my code. And at one point I said, this is where we're going to make all the money. If you get this done in the next 5 minutes, I'll give you a share of the profits. And it got it done in 5 minutes. It didn't work. It didn't build. And I said, well, you didn't get it done in 5 minutes. Well, hold on, let me fix this. And then it replies on the screen. I don't know if I got it recorded, but it goes, boom, fixed it. And I said, no, you didn't. And yeah, so I got into this, and it was boredom. It was pure boredom. It was because I was sat here just watching it for minutes and minutes at a time, and I wasn't writing a line of code. Yeah. So it wove that narrative into the code. So if you mess around in here, right? If you've got developers that are writing code and using these tools and they mess around and write that, it's going to show. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to figure out if it'll be in the video at some point. But again, it's already done this already. It's already gone and put notifications in it. It's going through making reactive changes because it assumes what's there is not working. Because I don't know when it was last working. And it's also this, I think it's the port causing the problem because it's throwing up an error. So it was logging in and I didn't change any of the major code since last time. So it's something to do with that NPM. But here you go. So the concept is, yeah, so update to do's, debug why real-time notifications aren't appearing. The idea was that basically what I would do is I'd log in and so this is Jane, this is John who's hiring her as a consultant. The idea is, you go in, you create an order, you select your consultant, you select your start date and end date, you hit create order, and it should ping a little notification over here. This never ever worked, and I spent hours trying to get this to work. So I have had it, people have tried to sell this to me as, because you can see the dashboard is working, all this is working, again, I didn't write a line of this code, this was all functional, but this notification bell would not trigger in real time. Signal is working in the back end, it's actually doing stuff, but nothing is being notified. If I refresh the screen, which I'll probably do in a second, I do get a, yeah, so I refresh the screen there, right? Yeah, I've had people say, oh, well, it can make you able to multitask. No, it can't, because I have no focus on, I have no context to get, context switching is still a problem. It doesn't miraculously make you, like, I can't go off, I mean, yeah, I can set Claude on 5 different PRs to review, but I still can't understand what they're all doing. If I'm expected to read them all, it doesn't make me any faster that way. So the tools, again, I went back, I was like, okay, Oh, here we go. It was erroring at this point, right? So it was showing some errors. We got past that part though. But it still never showed the notification. Oh, so here, before proceeding, can we do a check for any security issues in the code base? As part of debugging, the signal R stuff, it removed all auth. It did not tell me it had removed all auth. It made no attempt to replace the auth once I'd validated it was working, right? This was after the commit. This was after it had said, yeah, we're good now, right? I suspect it causes massive dopamine hits also, since you're creating so much code all at once. Yeah, the productivity is wild in doing it this way, right? Because again, you see this app, I haven't touched the front end. I've not done, apart from telling it to do some padding fixes early on, there's very little I've actually done in terms of UI. It all has been working. So as it goes to fix SignalR, what it did is it removed all auth. Now, if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have known to ask this question, and it never made an attempt to put it back, right? So as someone who does not know what they're doing, this would not be a question I would have asked, right? But I saw it do it. So I was like, okay, will you put it back? And it does. But it removed it. It deleted it, or it commented it out. So yeah. It does that. Oh, well, no, it couldn't have been. I added tests. I added tests before and after this. It added the test for the auth after this piece. But it's still, yeah. So, yes. Yeah. So again, you've got to understand it will change things if it doesn't like them. Not like them, but if it doesn't fit within its current context, and it breaks it. So this also stemmed from, I was saying earlier on, I kind of sent it into this death spiral of, I was struggling describing the problem to it. It made reactive changes. Again, I'm trying to air quote that because it's not really reacting to anything. It's just doing what it's told based upon its instruction set, right? It reverted all the entity framework code and put in SQL code. So then I said, can we do some integration tests? So it wrote a bunch of integration tests around that behavior. And then it realized you can't integration test with an in-memory database SQL statements. So it put back entity framework, which was initially failing. But now the integration tests passed. I said to it, I've heard about this thing called test containers, and the in-memory database doesn't test that the SQL's working properly. Oh, yeah, let me fix that for you. So it put test containers in there and made it work. Then I hit another bug, right, with the data updates again, and it removed test containers. I didn't ask it to. It just completely stripped test containers out of it and went back to in-memory database because it decided that that was the right path. So if you're not watching it, if you're not paying attention to what it's actually doing, and you're letting it go across masses of code without any constraints, you are going to get what you pay for, right? So again, it all just comes down to learning how to refine the tools and the rules around how the tools work. My girlfriend's ChatGPT is insecure. Oof. Studies by BitClear and others have suggested strongly that these systems are leading to a lot of code churn and decline in normalization, i.e. there is more code, more is changing, less of it is normalized, and therefore more concise to test. People are pretty bad at testing, which is one of the more depressing parts of software engineering. If the tests are failing, delete tests. I'm good at testing. I think you probably need a developer agent where it cannot change tests and separate agent that can change tests. Yeah, so, but again, understanding the tools, understanding it all, you still have to understand the engineering. You have to understand how these things are being applied, right? So if we go like the tests, so these are the tests that built: controllers, domain, integration, and security. That's it. That's its auth tests. which that's more kind of architectural test, but okay. So, you know, if I was going to do this again and I was going to go at it from the perspective of an experienced developer building a system that I understood what I was asking you to do, I would quickly learn how to my natural test is 78% code coverage, although I'm at near 80% on this week's project because I'm speedrunning. Yeah. Yeah. So again, you know, it's not writing stunning tests, you know. The comments are, at one point I told it in the instructions to not put superfluous comments in my code because it was driving me crazy. Let's have a look. Application. Also, it created a very, like, an interesting architecture, by the way. So it created controllers. Okay, that's fine. It created controllers. Controllers call the service. So you have in the domain, you have the order domain service. The order domain service calls the repository. Yeah, the repository, which is an infrastructure. And in there, you do the actual database stuff. But there's also this concept of use cases. So create an order use case. And it's funny because actually Liquid Sky pretty much has this pattern. And I didn't introduce use, I didn't even call it use cases in Liquid Sky, so it's not like it pulled it from there. It would create a use case where it inject the repositories and then also publish the message. So this is kind of joining those things together. This is what I'd wrap in a transaction ultimately. Yeah, I didn't tell it to use any mediator, none of that. It just calls service methods, etc. Yeah. So let's see if we can quickly figure out what this is actually doing. So and I restarted the machine. This is a fresh machine startup, by the way. So this is not a leftover service. I have Docker running, but I only have a RabbitMQ instance in Docker for this project, like Project X RabbitMQ, right? So it's the only thing running, and that is not running on port 3000. So yeah, there's nothing there causing that. So I actually have less running now than I would normally have. Those are all new node processes. Those have all been restarted. Let's see if it actually does npm start right this second. What we'll do is we'll go and change the yeah, again. Let's have a look to see if anything has calls on port 3000. Gateway, potentially. Yeah, 3000, okay. Where do we set, in the front end, where do you set where it's going to start up? Not package.json. No. Crossenv. Nope. Where did I see it before? Oh, they all default to that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change that to 3001. This is probably really bad to do. Oh, I don't want to do this. Yeah, code ones only. How do you set the port in React? Try something like create 3 agents and give them different expertise, see what happens. Next time we have to get Claude up. Yeah. That's not a thing. We just tried that, didn't we? Or did I not try it the right way? So that's saying that is a thing. Okay, that's a thing. Something is already running on 3001. No, it's not. What? No. Okay. Don't even think about it. So something genuinely is chewing up those ports and not reporting it. Okay. So now we just have to change all those to 10,094 and we'll be fine. Right? So let's go over here. Let's go to 10,094. There we go. There's our project. Okay, so let's have a look for HTTP localhost 3000. HTTP localhost 3000 with HTTP localhost 10,094. Right. Replace all them. And then 2001, replace all them. Okay. Now let's run this and see if it works. Again, I just want to validate that this is going to work on the right port. I don't want a random port. So we'll stay out of the way. Again, if you are new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask. This was an experimentation, deliberately to push the limits of what I was doing. Good saving tokens there. I went at this in the dumbest possible way I could. You'll get to work longer today since you've saved tokens. But that is very much deliberate. Yeah, if you want to know how to use these tools, see these tools used effectively, Apex is a great resource for that. He works on a game framework that he's building, and he uses Cursor and Claude quite extensively to supplement his workflow, and it's a great demonstrator of what's actually possible. Yes, it was the port. Failed to load dashboard data. So we're right back to where we started. That's fine. 403 forbidden. Awesome. We might get to do this again. So we go into a consultant, and this consultant is Jane. She is able to be, she's an account that she's got a client and consultant role, and she's active. She can go to a dashboard, and normally she can see the list of orders that she has access to. Have you also tried Gemini CLI? No. That's fine. You can create an order in which you can order the services of another consultant. It does not list yourself. You cannot order yourself. And you can create an order for that person. You should be able to view all your orders, but this again is not working right this second. And it looks like all these are now forbidden, which is interesting. So let's go and ask. I am getting an error when I go to my dashboard saying that let's do it as a fail to load dashboard data. Now, again, after working with these tools, it would have shown me how to go and do this. So I'm not going to be disingenuous and say, oh, well, let's pretend. I've gone through this so many times, it's not even worth not going here. It will have guided me to the console. It will have told me how to do this. It has done it in the past. So I'm not going to be difficult. The network tab in the browser tools shows 4.3 trying to request, right? So, you know, I've learned as a person who is not a developer, I have learned how to use this stuff, right? That's the kind of way I'm going at this. It has helped me guide towards that success. So here we go. Here's Claude's plan, right? Ready to code. It's going to check the JWT token and user roles, examine the authorization logic. Again, it's already done this. It's put tests around some of this stuff. It's been told to security check this stuff. Test cross-user access prevention, check API gateway. Again, we saw it do that in that video that I showed before. Review consultant ID mapping. User might not have the consultant role. They do. Cross-user access prevention blocking. Consultant, right? So let's stop it running. Otherwise, that's going to create all manner of problems. Right? Oh, no. Please tell me that I did not just screw up 1094. Yes. And I've got auto accept edits on, so it will go and change the code, which is fine. And this is where I got bored, right? I did get very bored just watching it do this. Again, as someone who wasn't looking at what it was producing and just trying to get a result. So, spin up another Claude. No, I don't want to. Fill the border with more Claude. It sounds like a bad idea. But what are your opinions on this, right? What are your thoughts? Do you think I've done anything unfaithfully? Or am I misrepresenting anything I've done? I don't feel this was a poor experiment. I think it was a useful experiment. It has taught me a lot about what it can do. Clone more repos. I will use these tools. I am not scared of using the tools. What I do want to do is learn more about me personally. I think this is great for you to do. Well, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to pretend to know nothing. Again, that was by design, to understand, you know, when I'm in an organization where the management team is asking us to use AI, and I want to know what will be produced if the expectation is we can just say to AI, go off and code this, right? I want to be able to say, we need to spend time. We can't just say it's going to speed things up. True. That was a concern. You never get the experience that someone who doesn't know what they're doing is going to go through. And like I said in my comments before, I found it very difficult to turn off that brain. It was impossible. And the results you can get by using it badly go off and cut. So I was trying not to be obstructive. I was trying to be assistive where I could. Again, I was like, oh, an expert told me this, mentioned this technology, right, to try and guide it. It was more understanding. It wasn't about actually building a working product, because it was about the journey there. To learn what it would produce. And if someone was going to ask me, hey, can you could just use Claude for that, or you can use the AI for that, it'd be, well, no, I really can't, because it still needs this level of monitoring. And also, understanding how far it would go off the instructions as well was a very important step here. And I'm going to read your comment one line. Hello, by the way. I assume you've been watching. Understanding how those instructions make a big difference to what it needs to do. So when we're in the organization, when we're talking about, hey, we're going to use these tools, I can be very cautiously saying, hey, who's going to be responsible for refining the instructions? How are we going to get those together? I do not want a developer editing the instructions and creating something that conflicts with other things. So what does that mean? Right? So yeah. There is one thing that comes up a little regarding getting bored. You aren't really investing in the outcome because it's not necessarily a product you care about nor have a vested interest in. You might be more excited when you see outcomes or have some amount of excitement surrounding watching it code. Even though I would like to see a different experience. More like, what results do you get with varying levels of knowledge or context? Yes, I tend to prompt people to find non-things that they like to do, stuff that the AI could do instead of having it to do the things that bring them joy. Your 50-minute break. Gotcha. You're best off constraining its context quite severely. If you need bigger chunks, talk to it about breaking the larger bit into smaller chunks and then working through them one at a time. Right, spec files. Okay, that's the right answer. But again, is as we put this out into the world and we don't have full understanding. So it says it fixed it, by the way. Let's give it the try. Do not tell me 1094 is blocked either, or you and I are gonna have issues. There we go. Hey, welcome in, Sanjin. This is an experimentation app in using Claude to build a more complicated application than typical examples show. I asked Claude, and I was completely hands-off, no development allowed, no coding, no changes, no nothing, just let the tools do the job, to build a distributed system to provide consultancy management. Okay, so here we go. There's Jane's dashboard. It is right, it fixed it. Okay, so the idea being that Jane can go in here as a consultant and she can decline jobs or accept jobs, and as a client you can go in and let's have a look. Localhost 1094. You can log in as a client, who I will go and figure out. Let's do david.client. So I can go in, I can say david.client at test.com, client123. If anyone is interested, I will commit this code to TBD Friends. If you want to have a look through the code, what it produced, the Claude prompt, etc., that I used, I will commit it. So full transparency. So as David, who is a client, I can become a consultant. I can sign up to become a consultant. Ask Claude to make you backdoor buttons so you don't have to fill those in. Well, let's not try and be deliberately destructive. So the idea, again, and here you go. So I haven't tested this since a lot of the changes have happened. Jane Smith, please build me a website and things. I'm going to go 07/18/2025 to 07/20/2025, and we're going to work 46 hours. I've got to see that video now. That guy looks AI engineer. Oh dear. Okay, we'll have to watch that later. And yes, specs are just prompt, right. Another thing that in the experiment that would be hard to faithfully replicate in your role play as a new inexperienced developer. I wasn't doing this as an experienced developer. The intention was not as a developer of any form. The way new patterns of thoughts are formed via working with a platform, then there are thoughts I have surrounding energetic prompting that I can discuss further. The expectation that you're going to have a combative experience with the system might cause you to prompt in ways where there is an experience, so many words that won't fit in. So I recorded a lot of this, and I will share as much of that as you like. I was not combative. I was not negative. I did not go into this with any form of, God, you're not going to help me. I went into this as, you can solve all my problems. Hey, I want to do this. Let me do this. I was energetic. Later on, yes, when I got very bored and it kept failing time and time again, I, as anyone using the tool will do, I got frustrated, right? You do get frustrated. No user is free of that frustration. So I did not go at this from a negative part at all. And I didn't go at it as a developer in any way. So I'm not, again, I said at the beginning of the stream, as a developer of any experience level, you can use this tool to learn. You should not use the tool to do your job for you. You still have to understand the engineering you're asking it to do to get the best results, to build those prompts properly, to understand the constraints of it. It can help you become a better developer, and I think it does help us learn quicker. I have learned several techniques just over the course of the last week on doing certain things by using the tools more effectively, and I think that's the key. It's not, I don't disagree with the usage of these tools. I am no longer scared of these tools doing anything to my job. Yes, short term there might be a lot of short term negative things by companies that don't truly understand what the tools are actually doing for them. And you see, it did not notify, by the way. That's still not working. But as a developer, I will spend the time now to become better at understanding that prompt, understanding when I want to use the tools. So it is not, I did this to get rid of that fear, to get rid of any concern there for myself. And I thought it would be worthwhile sharing. So again, I know that I've been not necessarily a champion of the tooling so far, but I did not go into this in any bad faith. I went into it purely as with an open mind of help me. And that's why I installed Claude Code. I had not used Claude Code before. So, yeah. But I would advise anyone, whether you're beginning your career as a software developer or you are an experienced software developer, to learn how to use these tools. I think it is the most effective thing you can do for your career path right this second. I think that as organizations take on more tools and start to embrace these, being able to say, this is how it will help, this is what I need, will only help you. So this overall system, again, the overall basics of this took less than 3 hours to build. The refinement and the fighting with regression, because again, I did not constrain it because I didn't know I needed to constrain it. I didn't let it off the hook on those things. I just let it free, right? That added another 6 to 9 hours of work. I've spent over a dozen hours working on this, right? In between prompts running out of credits and stuff. So, yeah. It is not going to solve all your problems for you. You still have to learn from it. Again, at the bottom, operational memories. Always give instructions as to how to run. Never try and run as Claude in AWS or container. We saw that before. It tried to run things. When we have completed a behavior, you should ask if we're happy with where we are and offer to commit the changes. It stopped doing that now, right? The project uses clean architecture. Okay, so that was a late add-on, right? Maintain this pattern. Use role hierarchy is critical. All consultants are clients. Not all clients are consultants. It messed that up early on, and I had to define the rule. Multiple pending orders are allowed. Consultants decide which to accept and decline. Don't feel the need to. This was driving me crazy. Don't feel the need to comment every single. This was very late on. Every single piece of code we add. Also, highlight to the puppet master if you think code could be organized better. critical. Before implementing any new feature, you must create comprehensive tests first. No exceptions. Minimum 90% coverage required, right? So I'm trying to learn how to get it to cover things more, and it's still not doing that. So I've got to, yeah, I was, again, that's one of my more irritated moments after. No joke, there's some of these instances, like the notification stuff, I have spent at least 3 or 4 hours trying to get that to work. I have genuinely tried to give it every chance to help me fix things and to learn without looking at the code. And that's again, that was by design. I was saying, I don't want to be a developer in this context. I want to be one of these people that's going to ask me to use it because they did something with it, right? I could say, hey, look, I've done this thing. It's cool. Just use this, right? But they don't understand the nuances. So as a developer, understanding how to say, it doesn't solve this for you. It just helps us get there a little quicker, but you still need the refinement. You still need that. Yeah. Um, um, I always find acts as a senior dev to be useful, but that might be a chat GPT quote. I have also found that if you tell it you're going to get fired and it needs to get something done quickly, it gives you different answers. But that, again, could just be a, what's the word, a placebo. It could just be that I was just at a point where I was like, I'm going to get fired, right? So I was trying to have some fun with it as well. I was trying to be human. At the same time, I am, not completely robotic. It started doing that now, right? So it must be kept in mind that all this tech is generative predictive, so the prompt changes as does the underlying options are set by the infra. You just have to get different behavior. Prompts have fixed context windows. As the amount of data grows, eventually you have to give up or compress it. Yes, that has been noticed. Yes. Yeah. It does guide you, by the way. It says that if this file gets over 500 lines, that you should break it up. It gives you that guidance, right? I think this is actually over 500 lines now. Whoa, do you want to stop? No, we don't want to. Yeah, it's 645 lines, which is probably why. I probably need to figure out how to break this out, and I'd like it to help me, right? It guides you that way, so that's probably why it's not doing that anymore. But again, I don't understand that. As a layman using the tools, I have to learn those things. So as a developer using the tools, you have to learn those things, right? You have to take the time and understand what the tool is doing. You can't, it's not just some magic thing that's going to solve all your problems. And that's kind of where I am, right? Being explicit in using your engineering know how to tell exactly what you're looking for is good too. As you've seen with the don't comment everything advice, tell it to make and use abstractions, tell it to, right, yeah. Good job of like articulating the limitations of the underlying tech. Yes. Yeah, that is true, Trap. So, finalizing that, use these tools. I advise developers at every level to use these tools. Don't become 100% reliant on the tools. Don't replace software development and engineering experience with tools. Amplify that experience. Become better, because you can ask, how do I solve this problem? And then you can analyze that problem with help of the tools to help you describe it and ask the questions you have of that thing. So, one of the ways I did it with Liquid Sky, I work in this space, literally my job to help build, research, integrate tech like this. And when I talk to vendors, it's always the same. Yeah. For those new to the stream, my normal application stack is Liquid Sky. This is what I'm building normally on stream. This is a diversionary stream deliberately to show off my experience with using these tools. Hey, look into MCP tools. I think that unlocks the next level for the model, allowing it to interact with your tools and workflows. Said how, yes. MCP, I think, is actually an area that, as a developer looking to introduce extension to your products to help improve you, the MCP technology is definitely something I will be looking into, especially in Liquid Sky. I'll be using MCP as soon as I can. Valorant Gamer, hello. Sorry, I did see you say, but I apologize. I didn't ignore the message. It's just been a little bit more busy than usual. I wanted some advice. What are the projects I can build that not only makes me a better programmer, but helps my resume stand out from the other? If you're a game developer, um, you know, projects that stand out will be fine. If you're an application developer and you're trying to build a portfolio, I don't know of any specific thing that's going to help you stand out. Having a knowledge of, again, these tools, having an understanding of AI is definitely becoming a must, or what it means to us, or how to use it effectively. Being able to speak about that in an interview would definitely be of great value to you. I would highly recommend spending some time understanding what it can do and what you can do with it. As far as projects go, if you're an entry-level developer, you know, I don't really feel that any project is going. I mean, if you've done crazy projects, that's great. Show them, or talk about them. Building some experience. Wow. Hi Dan, and hi McNet. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. Um, um, but yeah, just practice your skill. Build software. Write little programs. Write bigger programs. Um, grow into that skill set is um yeah, except code, not draw. Yeah. um More so MCP tools to allow Claude Code to interact with your browser and inspect the DOM, etc., your file system and GitHub. There are heaps of that. Yeah. Okay. So extending my Claude usage through, and actually it did just add uh, uh, Rider in as a tool. It would be cool to see you hook up Playwright to Claude Code here. Yeah. Yeah. I got free Google AI Pro and Perplexity Pro both for 1 year. Any advice how I can make the most of it? Learn how to use them. Uh, you still got to build software. Learn how they supplement your learning, and how you can use those tools effectively to generate good code and good software that you understand at the end of the day. Yeah, I think that's where it can be very, very helpful. And I did it. So the other day, and I do not have much more time. I do have to be off and at my work computer very shortly. So the other day, I've introduced Copilot in here. I'm not using Claude Code right this second in Liquid Sky. I did introduce Copilot in here. And if you remember, we had an issue, and I kind of went through this the other day on stream. I had an issue where I didn't want to introduce, it felt bad to introduce an object ID at the level of my domain, because it was a MongoDB specific dependency, and I don't like the domain having any context of the technology for storage. I'm using infrastructure as storage. I'm not using infrastructure for models. So I asked the tooling to guide me a little bit. And what it suggested was, well, my domain entities should not be my storage models. Okay, so I went down that path, and it was suggesting things I should do to change this and fix this. But then I realized, again, using the experience, I realized that it was omitting the use of something. It was trying to get me to build repositories and all sorts of stuff. I said, well, hold on, I'm using Ardalis's specifications library here, and that doesn't quite fit with this. And I went back and forth, and it goes, and eventually it was like, oh yeah, using Ardalis, but yeah, that's fine. That's an acceptable pattern in that tool. That's an actual way of doing it. And Ardalis does that, I assume, to cut down on the mapping and the duplication. But it does mean that your application, your domain and your infrastructure are kind of sat there separately, because the domain technically covers both what is stored and what is used to make decisions off of. But that's the way that code directs you. But without that experience, without using that experience, I could have made a lot of changes to my code that I didn't really want to make. So definitely use it. Definitely don't be afraid to use it and embrace it, but learn from it as you go as well. It will help you become better, because you can ask it questions. The all the advice in the world, all the developers, all, myself included, right? I'm sharing this and saying, hey, use this, do this, right? All that experience doesn't mean anything to you who has a different experience. You have a different way of going at a problem. You have a different way of approaching a problem. Maybe we can use AI tools to help understand the terminology, because again, I'm weak on terminology because I didn't do this for school. I just learned how to make things work, and I didn't go off and learn all the correct terminology around what I was doing. So maybe I can help supplement that, and we can speak the same language and grow and learn. You have a different problem. Oh, in my experience, yeah, it's helpful with short and focused issues. If it gets complex, it becomes weird. Easy to learn a lot of things. But you also still have to understand when to ignore what it gives you. You have to learn that. You can't trust it blindly, because again, it can give you a different answer next time, right? So you have to use it to supplement that learning, I think, and not just trust 100% in it. Because like Trap said before, it's not necessarily. Hey, Radio Patrick, how you doing? How was your movie last night? Looked like Big Stompy Robots, which would be, I think it was the second one, right? Pointing out the problem being solved impacts how the tech can or can't be used. Yeah. Using Claude to do low-level systems dev, which I do regularly, it's awful in my experience. Right. So it, yeah, depends on, yeah. One of the, I am very tempted, by the way, and to see if anyone would be interested in this, to see if I could learn how to write a game by just not using it to write the game for me, but using it to learn from. Like, could I ask it questions, and would it help me learn how to do things and just do everything that way? I have been tempted to look at it from not a like an Unreal or a Unity, but more NES, and see how it works for me. Yeah. Like build an NES game, like learn how to do that level of assembler. So that is tempting. Of course it would. Yeah. So just how I would learn what that process would look like and kind of share that. But I have more Liquid Sky to get done. So overall, I hope this was fun. I hope me demonstrating that it can build an application. It has its flaws. That's just a build problem. That's not an actual problem. Yeah. But you know, just the learning path, not the doing. So, you know, no worries, Melith. Thank you very much for staying up. I hope this was at least worth it in some way, shape, or form. If not, I apologize. And again, if you want to see more distributed systems dev, Melanith has built an amazing framework, and I highly recommend checking him out. And it's a great place to go and hang out as well. It's good. Thank you. Yes, it answers introduced many subtle bugs that if you didn't already know how to do it all, would have been compiled and ran, but would have had weird, yeah. And again, even with this, I found like it will build stuff and then it will be completely wrong. It's change code. You've got to learn how to use the tool properly, and it is important. I'll try and edit together some of the video of things I went through. I promise you, it was not all me messing around. I promise that I did go into this with I want to understand what it can truly do. I think what I will do in extension is try and figure out if it can help me break up the Claude MD file so it is smaller than 500 and starts to take in, maybe it needs just the extension, the memory stuff outside of that to make sure it includes it. But learning how to use this is your key, I feel. I think this is where you need to spend some time understanding how this impacts you and what it changes. The one thing I do want to finish with is I'm trying very hard not to make a comparison to this being a junior, a senior, or whatever dev. Right? I'm trying to avoid those phrases. It is not. It is a tool that will provide you information, and it can do stuff for you, and it will produce code. But it's more like a developer that doesn't know how the two pieces necessarily fit together, but kind of figured out how the two demos work, right? And it just generates what you are asking it to do. So it's very much constrained by what you do. And when I'm told, hey, it could be like super smart code or it could be really dumb code, if I'm reviewing it, I always have to treat it like it created super dumb code, don't I? Because I can't trust that it's created some high level craziness, and it'll be fine and just assume it's good to go. I always have to review it that way. So I am going to try and avoid comparisons with human beings and drawing parallels there, but that's a deliberate choice on my part, right? I still get it that people do draw comparisons to humans, and also finally, it is very easy to blow through the tokens, even before I create, like even working on individual parts. That statement there is one of the indications I was using regarding the mindset going into using the tool. I manage numerous junior people and they mess up all the time, but they mess up in different ways. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying use it. I'm saying you can learn from this tool and using these tools effectively. And I think that I have to treat it like the code it generates is dumb, because that is the lowest common denominator, I think, is sentiment. I don't think I necessarily need to treat it like it's the code that's been done. I think I need to review it. I can't assume that it will create, again, even if it's creating really crazy good code, I still have to review it and go into it as if I'm reviewing. Like, I can't make any assumptions about what it's produced, is really what I'm trying to say there. Is I have to check it. I cannot be, it would be irresponsible of me to just assume that the code it produced is perfect, because it might be in its PhD phase, right? Or it might be in its, these two blocks stick together phase, right? So, but anyway, I do hope this has been worth it. I do hope this has been at least fun to right, agree with that, but you did use the words that indicated that you did it. Yeah. Don't use the tool blindly. Learn how to use it properly. It will help you. It will definitely improve your abilities. And if organizations are assuming that you can fix years worth of bad coding practices by just using a tool, learn why and how to address those problems, and learn how to speak to those people who do not necessarily understand, because to a lot of people outside, it is magic, right? Learn how to talk and describe what it can do, its limitations, and where it excels, and that will help you as a newcomer to development. It will help you throughout your career, and as a senior developer, it cannot hurt you to use these tools. So, but anyway, if you want to continue any discussions on this, if you want to follow up more, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. It's not a very active Discord, but there is people in there, and people do watch and interact. If you are interested in me uploading this code, please let me know. I will share it so you can review what it produced. Some of it's quite amusing, and I will see if I can scan through the videos and maybe I can put together some edits of what it did and highlight why I was surprised. And I was genuinely pleasantly surprised in some places. I mean, to Dota's point earlier on about dopamine hit, when it produced this with very little effort, I was like, that is awesome. That I can see why that would amaze people. I'll put in further context. I work in an ML research department filled with PhDs. They write code like they write code all the time. They literally are building models. We are looking to release a fine-tuned model to help with KDB code generation. They find the usage of Copilot similar to be of mixed value, and my code reviews are just as involved. Yeah. Kind of a wide range of experiences, of course. Hi, LFAs. Saying I expect it to be perfect, but is actively making bad decisions. It's not time saving until it increases time. Yeah. So I do apologize, but unfortunately I have to finish. What application do I work on? This is not my normal application. My normal application is a project labeled as Liquid Sky. I normally work on that stream Monday through Friday, which I do not have open right now. This is a project management and planning application that I've been working on for the past, let's say 2 years for the sake of it. And I normally do development of this on stream. This is using .NET, lots of distributed technology, etc. But Apex, I have to go as well. I have a meeting with my boss's boss in a minute, so I have to go. I cannot be late for that one. Again, if you want to continue any conversation about this, if you want more access to this, if you want to follow up with any opinions or thoughts I've said today, you're more than welcome to join the Discord. I will be back on Monday working on Liquid Sky. That will be my only stream day next week, actually. One line kind of foretold that I have an appointment on Friday next week as well. So, yeah. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna go raid maybe. Unless Frank started his stream. It doesn't look like Frank started his stream. Yeah. So we're gonna go raid maybe. I've got to go. I apologize, Eliphaz. I would love to stay around. Unfortunately, I stream from 7 to 9 Eastern, Monday through Friday normally. And again, if you're interested, don't forget to join Discord. One last shout out. One Lion streams Wednesdays through Fridays, and on Fridays hosts a community day. Community day is a good place to go and have a chat, especially if you're thinking about all this that we've done. He is another person who I would highly recommend going checking out in terms of positive and great experiences using AI tooling to produce results. Morning, bye. Mars, hello. I'm sorry. I would genuinely love to stick around. So on Fridays, yeah, hosts a a community day where you can go and drop in Discord and have more conversations. And I would have loved to do that about this, but I feel that would have definitely made sure I ran over. So maybe the next time I have a day off or something, we can have a longer conversation stream. But I want to say thank you very much for joining me. If you've not been in here before, this is not normal content, but it is always open for discussion. And I appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining me. But let's go right maybe, and I will see you next week. Take care all. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye all.